right, welcome to Coffee with Coach, featuring head coach Randy Smith of the Silsbee Tigers. I'm your host, Daniel Elizondo, communications director of Silsbee ISD. Welcome, Coach. We're here at Moore Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership located on 1305 Highway 96 bypass in Silsbee. So how's it going, Coach, this morning?
That's good. We're just excited to get started. We got our freshman JV games tonight, so it'll be our first real football games.
You've got, 3 weeks of full practice going on? 2 of those weeks with pads, I believe. What is the mentality of the kids now that the games are approaching and it's ready to start?
Sure, they're just ready. I mean, we're all ready. We're ready to just play a game, go against somebody else, and it be a real game. And, we had two good scrimmages, but we're excited just to line up and play in a really big game week 1. So we're excited about that.
I keep going back to a year ago at this time. We were dealing with Hurricane Harvey, and football wasn't even on anybody's mind at this time. Even in that first game when we played Newton, we had to cancel PNG, correct? Mm-hmm. We start with Newton, and it just seemed like the mentality on both sides of the ball, even with Newton, it wasn't there. Is that the feeling that you got?
It was definitely a unique situation. I think football was something that was able to unite the community and get them all together and do all those things. But it was a difficult time, no doubt, going through that, and us playing a game without being in school, that first game, and all those things were stuff that you'll definitely never forget.
I went to the first practice you guys had, and it seemed like the kids were just ready to play at that time. Ready to go. The enthusiasm was there, the spirit. Is that something that you see coming into this game? I know the scrimmages, the kids were playing hard, hitting hard, and these guys are ready.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think our practices have been good. We're like anybody else. We have ups and downs, but we've had really good practices, and I think we're ready to roll.
Tell me a little bit about that, being head coach now in your 3rd year here at Silsbee.
I think it's just, everybody's familiar with what we're doing, the expectation, how we practice. Our schemes, are consistent. The kids have been doing the same thing, down to the middle school and the 9th grade, the JV. So all those things just start to add up over time. Our off season was really good, and so you're starting to see the benefits of that, and hopefully those end up to results on Friday night.
Last year, we talked about the hurricane and all. Still ended up going 4-1 in district, beat Navasota. I think a lot of people were really, I don't want to use the word surprise, but, that came about and ended up making the playoffs, tied for first, get the head-to-head win over Navasota to take first in the district in Division I now. That was huge for Silsbee to win that game, wasn't it? And it was in Navasota.
Right. No, that probably turned our season around. I mean, it allowed us to come back and win 6 in a row, and our kids kind of at halftime. I mean, I can remember us just looking around, and the kids we really believed they could go win that game. We scored right before the half. We came back in the second half and had a big kickoff return, and it just kind of snowballed from there. We just kept rolling with that all the way through the rest of the year.
And with that said, you guys, making the playoffs, you ended up defeating Center 37-17, Bay City 52-21. I mean, you guys were putting up some big numbers in those games. And then, unfortunately, eventual state champions Carthage came to play.
About that a little bit.
I was just really proud of our kids last year, and particularly our seniors. I mean, we went through a whole lot as a team. Our community went through a whole lot of things and tragedies and things that they had to overcome, and so those kids really were able to overcome a lot of adversity, and they learned a lot of things about life that aren't just about football. I mean, football teaches you about life and how to overcome things, and I think that's showed a lot to the character of those kids and those seniors, to how they finished the year last year.
This year, new division. Division II moved down. I think our numbers went down just a little bit, and not by much. I mean, what does that do for Silsbee now, moving down to this new division?
I mean, obviously, in this area, Class 4A, whether it's 1 or Division II or whatever it is, I mean, the competition is good. But obviously, I mean, you always want to be at the top. You'll want to be the biggest school in your division. That obviously can give you some advantage numbers wise. But for the most part, I mean, we're not approaching things any different than we would any other time. We're just trying to, get better every day. Play one day at a time, one practice at a time, one game at a time. And so that's kind of what we talk to our kids about. We're not looking past, anything more than getting ready to play PNG this week.
Now, Dave Campbell, Texas High School Football Magazine comes out, at number 4 ranking in Division II Silsbee. What were your views when you saw that?
I mean, I'm glad that there's people out there that understand what we did last year and the kids we have coming back. But all that really, the rankings at the beginning don't mean anything. It's the rankings at the end. And so we know we kind of have a big X on our chest anyway. Because of the success that we had last year and success we've had in basketball and track and everything else. So we just got to go and worry about us, not about the rankings or any of that stuff.
How do you approach the athletes when you see this? And for a young kid to see that, they get that large head. How do you as coaches approach that?
We just talk to them about that. I mean, we talk to them about, hey, you got to still come out here and go to work and be here and do things right. And so really, I mean, we don't spend a lot of time worrying about rankings and all that stuff.
You guys still running multiple? You've been running multiple since you got here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably a little bit more multiple now than we were even the last 2 years. But yeah, we're pretty multiple formationally. A lot of formations, a lot of sets, motion, that kind of stuff.
And 3-4 defense implemented by Coach Michael Allen.
Yeah, we're a 3-4 defense. We're based out of a 3-4, and we're really excited about our defense and hoping to see big things out of them.
Now, your offensive starters, I want to start with your offensive line, which you've got 4 seniors, which are Kevin Lightfoot, Cody Duncan, Gavin Weaver, and Mark Quayle. The other lineman is Morgan Roberts, who is a junior. Now, we know that Mark Quayle and Kevin started last year. Is that correct? That they played a lot last year?
Yeah, well, Kevin and Mark Quayle been on their 3-year starters. Mark Quayle is a 3-year starter on defense. He played a lot of offense last year, but he's starting both ways right now. Kevin is a 3-year starter on offense, and he's playing a lot of defense right now. And then Cody's been on the varsity since he was a sophomore and played a lot. So we're counting on those guys. Gavin Weaver is a guy that played center last year some when our Hayden Glenn got hurt. So he's played a lot. And then Morgan was a guy that was on the JV last year, but also played a little bit on the varsity. Actually started the game because of injury, so he's got a little bit of experience. So we're counting on those guys to make it go up front.
Now, you lost a lot on the offensive line, 2 graduations. So these guys coming in, how are they responding?
They're doing well. Like I said, we did lose a lot, but one of the benefits of having some of the injuries that we had early on in the season last year when we played a couple games without Wiz and without Hagan and those guys got hurt and so forth, is some of these guys had to step up and get to play. So they've got some experience, and so that's always a positive.
Yeah. And tight end Sterling Harrington, also a senior. That kid's grown a lot over the summer, hasn't he?
Yeah, we're expecting big things out of him on both sides of the ball. He's had a good first 3.5-4 weeks of practice. He had a good summer, and he had a good off season. He's grown and gotten stronger, and so he's another kid that he played linebacker last year and a little bit of tight end, and he's kind of slid into that tight end role a little bit more this year.
Your skill players, say we've got receivers Darshawn Turk and Cameron White, who are both seniors. Now these guys last year were defensive starters, and now you've moved them down to offense.
Right.
How is that working for you?
Well, we've got 4, 5, 6 receivers that are all going to play. Cameron White and Darshawn are obviously the seniors that are, we expect to be leaders on that receiving core. But then Aaron Sales, he's also a guy who's a leader for us on both sides of the ball, playing Z receiver. And we've got Jalen Davis is a senior playing receiver, and Javante Hunt is playing receiver, and Brady Scoggins. And we've got several guys that are doing really well at receiver. We've got more depth at receiver than we've probably had. Those guys don't necessarily have a lot of playing time experience yet, but in the end, I think we got more depth there than people maybe think.
With that depth, do you see, as the season goes along, see them coming in more and more, a lot of rotations?
Yeah, I think as we start, we will, mainly just because, we'll see. We may keep doing that. We're gonna focus on getting our best guys on defense as much as possible. So, we'll rotate them in on offense.
Your running backs, of course, Chris Martin. That kid is a physical specimen when you see him. He's probably intimidating to other teams. What is he listed at, 6'1", maybe?
Something like that, 190, 195 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, that first scrimmage with Viter, first play from scrimmage, hits the hole and just hits two guys and just runs, 75 yards for a touchdown. He's got a lot of speed also. I mean, we're expecting a lot from this kid, aren't we?
Yeah, him and Draylon, Chris Martin and Draylon, both first team all district kids last year, sophomores, and so it's exciting to have those guys back. And then we've got a couple other kids that carry the ball and have done well. Zion Brown's had a good scrimmages. Antonius Arline's scrimmaged well. So we got 4 or 5 running backs. Tarver's done well at fullback, and Dylan Colvin. So we've got 4, 5, 6 guys we can get the ball to, and I'm excited about all those guys.
We talk about, you mentioned Draylon Taylor, who was also a junior, who him and Martin split time at running back last season. This season you have him working more at quarterback.
Yeah. Draylon's one of those guys that's going to play everywhere. I mean, you'll see Draylon in the slot. You'll see him at quarterback. You'll see him at running back. You'll see him at corner on defense. He's going to play some defense, special teams, everything. I mean, we got to get him on the field, and I can't tell you exactly how it's all going to work out, but he's going to be out there. So we're fired up about all those guys, and so it becomes a nice problem trying to figure out how to get them all in the game.
And you've also got Corbin Johnson, who is also a junior working at quarterback, and he's more of a throwing quarterback. Is that correct?
Well, I would say he's more of a, they're both throwing the ball really well right now, but he's more of a traditional quarterback, I guess, so to speak. But he's doing well. Corbin's a real smart kid. He's a leader. He does a good job for us, and so we'll be playing both of those guys. And so it's right now. I've told them they're both going to play. There's no, we're not worried about anything else than doing what we got to do to win.
Now, with having 2 quarterbacks, is this something that you're going to utilize throughout the season, or do you hope to see it mold into maybe just one guy starting?
I don't know at this point. Right now, we're gonna stick with playing them both, and we'll just see how it kind of plays out.
We talked about Martin and Taylor, which last year they combined for 1,900 yards. When you've got both of them in the backfield, that's going to present a problem for some defenses, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt. Like I said, we're excited to have those guys and use them, the best we can.
Now, on the defensive side of the ball, you've got some offensive linemen that are playing both ways. You've got Kevin Lightfoot and Mark Well, who are going to be playing on the defensive line. Then you've got Sam Roundtree, who is a junior, and Jiron Rawls, who is a senior. Then you've got linebacker Dolan Keenan, a senior, linebacker Sterling Harrington, a senior, and linebacker Isaiah Henderson, who is a junior. Your defensive backs, you got Darshawn Turk, senior, Jalen Davis, senior, Cameron White, a senior, and Aaron Sells, a senior. I mean, you've got a pretty good defense coming in this season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're excited about all those guys, and we got a rotation going on the D-line. Another kid that's going to play a lot of O-line, D-line is a sophomore, Aiden Bell. He's going to rotate in, and then Samuel Roundtree's another kid that played on the JV last year that's had a really good offseason. He had a really good summer workouts. He's done well in 2 days and through the scrimmages, and so we're counting on him to be a player for us. And Rawls and Dolan Keenan kind of play outside backer / D-line type position, and so both those guys played a lot last year, and so they're kind of high energy guys, and we're counting on them to come on with it. And then of course our secondary, Aaron Sales is back. He's kind of a leader over there, and Turk and Cam White. We're counting on those guys, and then Jalen Davis is another kid who's a senior who's done really well in fall camp. You're going to see Draylon out there playing. You're going to see Taylor Smith playing defense. You're going to see several other kids that have done really well in fall camp. So.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Spencer Uribe, who was a starter last year at linebacker, and I know he's being missed right now because he suffered an baseball injury and had Tommy John surgery in the spring. Do we expect to see him coming back during the season at all?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hope so. I think he eventually he's practicing right now. He just can't do full contact, so to speak. But he's out there. I mean, he does what he can do in practice without the contact, and we're counting on him to come back. At some point, hopefully, at the very least by district.
And it's good to have him out there on the sideline just as a presence, as a leader.
No doubt. I mean, he's a 3-year starter too, so he knows the defense inside out, how to get everybody lined up, and all that. He's kind of like a coach for those linebackers, and so we're missing him, but at the same time, we'll be better depth wise when he comes back. These guys getting to play, so we're counting on him though to be back.
Awesome. And then your new linebackers, these guys that are coming in, they're accepting their roles and performing well at their roles.
Yeah, Isaiah Henderson is a kind of a bright spot kid. He's a kid that has come on and really had good scrimmages and kind of worked his way into playing time. Dylan Tarver is another kid that'll play some inside backer. And so, all those kids have done a good job. And we've got a couple other kids. Austin Payne is an inside backer. All those guys that will have gotten reps. And so I think we'll be fine there.
Good deal. Now your scrimmages pretty much blew away Brownsboro. And you mentioned that you started a little flat in that game, but you guys came out in second quarter. Martin, 2 runs. Taylor had 2 runs. Zion Brown, you mentioned him. He had a big run. And a touchdown pass to Kadrian Cartwright from Johnson. That's exciting to see a lot of players getting involved.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we did both of our scrimmages like a game, so to speak, four quarters, and we started out flat against Brownsboro for whatever reason. I didn't think we started out the way we should have. We let them go down the field and score, and then played a whole lot better the rest of the game. Saw some guys carry the ball and do some things that shows that we have some depth in some positions that maybe we didn't know. So I think that's a positive.
And that wasn't the case for Vider, which was the first scrimmage you guys played. And I guess that was just the anticipation of the kids wanting to play because they came out and were playing super hard in that game.
Yeah, it's a big shout out too to our band for coming out there to a scrimmage and our cheerleaders and our drill team and all that. It made it as much, we tried to make that as much like a game as possible, especially with only having 4 home games this year, making that as much like a game as possible. And I think all that added to it. It was fun for the kids, and that was a really neat deal to do, and we'll try to do that again in the future. So I think that was a good deal.
Awesome. Now, looking ahead, Friday night, first game of the season. We didn't get this opportunity last year, but now we're getting this opportunity. We're heading to the reservation, and we're going to play Port Neches Groves. They're a District 12 5A Division II team under Brandon Faircloth. Last year, 10-2 overall, lost to College Station 60-40 in the 5A regional semifinals. They beat Crosby 72-69 and Texas City 24-17. They finished second place in their district, suffering a loss to Nederland 36-35. That was a close one. In their scrimmages, we'll talk a little bit more about him in a little bit, but senior quarterback Rashawn Johnson tossed a 53-yard touchdown pass against Westbrook and scored on a 40-yard run against West Orange Star. And their defense has accounted for 2 interceptions against the West Orange Star. Overall, PNG has 6 returning on offense and 5 on defense. Let's talk about Rashawn Johnson. We can't, pretend that he's not there. This kid is a Texas commit, listed as 6'2", 200 pounds, a 4-star athlete, ranked nationally as the 11th best dual threat quarterback of the 2019 class on Rivals.com. Last season, he accounted for 4,527 yards of offense and 63 touchdowns as a junior. We never got to face this guy, and this is last year is what I'm talking about, and we're going to face him this year. He's grown. He's gotten better. He's got a chip on his shoulder. How do you approach this type of a player in your first game of the season?
It's a challenge, definitely. I mean, we talk to our kids about how explosive he is and about keeping your contained lanes and all those things, but at the same time, I mean, you can't simulate some of the things he does until you get out there. The biggest thing that we got to do is, play hard, run to the football, tackle. Football comes down to tackling, blocking and tackling, and so those are the things that we got to really focus on, being able to get lined up correctly, make the right calls, all those things. You're not going to completely shut someone like that down. We just got to do our best to try to eliminate big plays and get them off the field and put them in third and long situations and things like that. All the things that you would normally do. Obviously, you have things you have to do to figure out what he does best and try to take those away, just like you would anyone else. But he's definitely a challenge. He's their leader. I mean, he is their leader offensively. And from what I've heard, he's a really good kid, and all those things add to him being the catalyst that makes them go. And so, yeah, it's a challenge. They're really good. It's not just him, though. They've got an offensive lineman that the Garth kid, he's going to Texas A&M or wherever he's going, somewhere like that, A&M, Arkansas, Texas. They've got a big, good-looking kid at center. And so they got a big physical offensive line, and they've got two really big backs that carry the ball, and so we got to be able to, control them as well. And so that's what makes it tough trying to stop them is they can get behind those big boys and run the football and do all those things. So, we got their complete offense. We got to be a complete defense and do our job and do what we're supposed to do, stay in our gaps and be disciplined.
Now, with this high-powered offense, and you have a lot of kids that are playing both ways, I mean, how is that going to affect their physicality going into the third and the fourth quarters?
We've talked to our kids a lot about that, and a lot of that comes down to how hard we've worked them and the conditioning and all those things. And I feel this team is as good a shape as any team that I've had here, that we've had here. So, we just talked to our kids about, getting it to the fourth quarter and winning the game in the fourth quarter. And so those are things that are important. It's going to come down to that. I mean, no doubt when you're a 4A school and you play a 5A school where they're playing kids one side of the ball, I mean, obviously we've got to be in shape. And so we've done our best to get to run and condition and practice hard and do all those things. And all that's going to be a factor. It's Southeast Texas. It's going to be hot.
Is one of your game plans, well, not one, but obviously your game plan is to try to keep the ball out of the hands of Rashawn Johnson and keep that offense off the field? Is that pretty much safe to say?
Sure. There's no doubt. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And, it's not a lot different from last year when we played Bay City. They had an explosive quarterback, kind of the same thing. And, we just we got to do what we got to do offensively to move the football. But, we're trying. We're going to try to do our best to limit his touches by taking control of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
Now, for Silsbee on defense, your team speed overall is pretty good.
Yes,
and that's going to help you in this game.
I think so. I mean, I think our defense, we ought to be able to hold up to them as far as, from an athletic standpoint. We give away a little bit on size. Mm-hmm. And so that's a concern. But I think, we've got to rotate guys in, and a bunch of guys are going to play, and we just got to go out there and play hard and get after it when we go. Other than I'm just excited for the environment that we get to go out and play, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten to this point. Like I said, the band, the cheerleaders, the drill team, all that coming out to our scrimmage and all that. And so it's going to be fun over there at 7:30.
Yes, kickoff at 7:30 at the reservation at Port Neches. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a great game. Thank you, Coach, and we'll see you next week right here.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.